28 Days Later was a really tense and influential horror film. It is the film that launched Cillian Murphy. It popularized fast zombies, and I am 100% team fast zombie. I think this franchise has the scariest zombies in any of the zombie movies, as far as I'm concerned. And then in the second one, they sort of went for like a more COD-style zombie horror action movie. And I absolutely love 28 Weeks Later. I liked it more than 28 Days Later, although that might be because I didn't get to see 28 Days Later at the cinemas because I was too young, and the fucking camera... I don't know if you've watched it recently, but the camera quality is horrendous. But overall, I love this franchise, and I was really excited for 28 Years Later. 28 Years Later is one of the weirdest films I've had to talk about this year, because it has these really jarring tonal shifts in it. So, I mean, we'll break it down, spoiler free. Is it brilliant? Is it broken? Is it just really fucking British? To be honest, I don't really know. At the time of writing this review, I still don't really know where I stand on this film, because I love a large section of it and I didn't love a large section of it. The first half to 2/3 of this movie is one of the best and most energetic zombie films I've seen in years. It's tense, it's gritty, it's gross. And then there's like a whole section of this film that sort of feels like Rafiki from The Lion King wandered onto the Children of Men set, to the point where I thought one of the characters was going to like grab some ash and like wipe it across another character's forehead and be like, remember who you are, you know, like it is that vibe. And weirdly, I really liked that bit. I think it worked, and it definitely made it more interesting. And then right at the end, it hits you with this weird sequence of events that looks like it was ripped out of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. Like full on weirdness. And me and my friends for the last probably 5 to 10 minutes could not stop laughing. We could not hold it together. And even for like 20 minutes after the film, we stayed in the lobby and we're just talking about it, bursting like tears from laughter. And I'm not sure that is the vibe I want from an entry in this franchise. It's just a weird film, and I know there are some people who are going to love this movie, and they should. Large parts of this movie are fucking great. But there's just so much weirdness going on with this film that it's really hard to talk about. And let's talk about the elephant penises in the room. Some of the zombies in this movie have, like, due to like wear and rot and time, lots of the zombies are totally naked, which is fine. That makes complete sense as far as stories. It's been 28 years since the outbreak. They're wandering the wilderness. Makes complete sense. But some of them have dicks that look like they've walked off a porn set. Which, once again, not a big deal until you realize that most of the zombies in this movie fucking sprint. And if you've played Baldur's Gate, you know that there's a little bit of jiggle physics involved. And at some of the tensest scenes in this film, one including like the water, you'll know it when you see it. Like some of these zombies are sprinting and it is just swinging. It is just swinging everywhere. So what happens is, at least what happened in my cinema, is that if they're on camera for more than like 3 or 4 seconds, little giggles start to break out around the crowd until everyone just starts laughing. And it is terrifying in parts, but it's also a really weird choice. Like there's a scene where one character's trying to kill one of the big zombies with arrows, and I was like, bro, just aim for his dick, you can't miss. And the nudity and the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers of it all isn't completely off base, because Alex Garland likes to throw often humorous and psychedelic stuff into his movies. And the nudity was just a weird choice. It was just kind of funny. It didn't throw me off the film. But the last 5 minutes really did. And because it's the last thing you see in this movie, if lots of your movie experience will be dependent on whether you like that or not. I did not. I thought it's come out now. This is a trilogy. This is going to be a trilogy. This is very much sequel bait. The last 5 minutes of this movie, and it felt like it just copy and pasted from a completely different film. It felt really weird, and it left a bad taste in my mouth that tarnished lots of the emotional and tense work that was the first 2/3 of this film. 28 years later is set 28 years after the first film. Oh, that's why they called it that. It follows 12-year-old Spike, who lives in a community on the extremely isolated Holy Island. That is a real place. Lindisfarne is a real place. It is connected to the mainland by a path that goes underwater at high tide every night. If you are a fan of strategy games or like any game where you move little dudes around a map, you'll know that is primo strategic real estate, especially in a zombie apocalypse. Spike's dad, Jamie, is played by Aaron Taylor Johnson, and he's decided that Spike is old enough to come across the mainland and learn to kill the infected. Spike's mum, Isla, has this illness that presents itself in like cognitive lapses and dementia-like symptoms. And as there are no more doctors left, it's up to Spike and Jamie to look after her. When something horrific occurs on the mainland that changes pretty much all of Spike's worldview, he makes a really tough decision and decides that he's going to do whatever it takes to save poor old Mumsy. So first, the good. This movie starts off with an incredibly creepy set of images set to Boots, the poem by Rudyard Kipling, which is all about like the horrors of long-term war and what a soldier has to go through mentally in war. And it is wonderfully dread-inducing. It is really like it sets the tone perfectly. This movie fully captures what makes the franchise so scary. It is the energetic and frantic encounters with the infected. Like that happens a lot in this movie. This isn't like Zombieland or Shaun of the Dead where you can just absolutely brute force your way through hordes of zombies. You can't do that in this one. If more than like 2 or 3 show up, you're in trouble, and you feel it in this film, right? There are multiple points at this film where you feel like the characters are in trouble, and that is because this franchise notoriously has flagrant disregard for who lives and who dies, and that does wonderful things for the tension in this movie. The acting by Aaron Taylor Johnson, Jodie Comer, and Ralph Fiennes is magnificent. They all play these really weird but deeply interesting and flawed characters. Alfie Williams, another kid actor. Kid actors are killing it this year. He was great in playing his role as well. Even though I didn't love some of his characters' action, you sort of understand them because of his age and because of where he grew up. And he does a fairly serviceable job. This would have been a hard role to do. It's very physical, and I think he did a great job. The world building in this movie is fucking great. There's a lot of thought put into what might happen 28 years after a cataclysmic event like this. The infected have sort of grown to and evolved, and with that they've sort of taken different ecological niches. And those niches haven't reduced their threat levels, right? Every zombie type in this movie is still fucking terrifying, and you don't want to meet them. And it's great because this does take place up near the border of Scotland and England, I believe. And it's set sort of in this wilderness rural area, which it's beautiful. There are so many shots of vistas and wide shots and all that sort of stuff. And I found that so much more interesting than if this movie just took place in like an overgrown city, which most of them do. Most zombie films go that route. This doesn't. There are these massive areas of forest and woods, and there's danger present everywhere. There's lots of fucking places to hide in a forest. And the survivors of the area, like the isolated town, they're kind of culty because they were isolated even before the cataclysmic event happened. Before the rage virus happened, they were sort of isolated. So they have these weird customs and traditions that are based on the fact that they're isolated and that they have this weird reverence for the medieval history of the region that they're from. And it feels like a folk horror zombie film. There are scenes where some of the bigger zombies are like cresting a hill, and it's fucking creepy, man. It's true folk horror vibes. It's really, really good. And this is in essence, this is a coming of age story. And I think the relationship between Spike and both his parents is really deep and really interesting. His dad's been like training him his whole life. He's a hard ass. He's really capable. But he's also really supportive and really proud of him. So it leads to this push-pull where he's like, hey, don't fuck this up. You know, you could kill any of us at any time if you fuck this up. But he's also like, to other people, he's like, oh, look at my boy, apple of my eye, the greatest thing I've ever done. You know what I mean? Like, it's really, that push-pull is really interesting. And Spike also cares really, really deeply about his mum. You know, even though her condition, let's be honest, makes her a liability in an apocalyptic sense, there is a community built up around her. There's someone who comes and looks after her when they're not home. Spike really is really protective of his mum, even though he's a 12-year-old boy and she's the mother. That role is really interesting, and it's a really interesting role reversal, and it leads to a lot of the emotional punch of this movie. There's a really big theme of like life after death and rebirth and remembrance and reverence for people's lives after they've died, and the good old times going through this film, right? There is themes of like nostalgia going through this film. And even though it does get like psychedelic in parts, almost Annihilation-like, which shouldn't surprise anyone, once again, Alex Garland, I really like those parts because they made this much more than just a straight down the line zombie film like 28 Weeks Later. Those parts are really interesting and I really loved it. And if that's all this movie was, I'd be fucking stoked with it because it's really well done. The emotional tension is there, and it looks beautiful despite the fact it was shot on like a bunch of iPhone 15s. It's a really beautiful looking movie. I have two big issues with this film. One of them is there are these weird, almost COD kill cam inspired shots in this movie that take place during the infected scenes, and the infected scenes in this franchise are the reason it's so popular. They are frantic and they're scary and they're wild and the camera's moving fucking everywhere and it's so intense. And by almost stopping time and giving us a breather by using these slow motion like 360 shots of these zombies getting killed, it takes the tension out of it. It gives us a chance to breathe. And that's not what you want when you've got such frantic energy in these kill sequences. Any interaction with the infected in this movie feels like life or death struggle. And by pressing pause on that, you take all the tension out of it. There is a scene that takes place in a house that doesn't use these kill cam shots or uses them sparingly. And it was one of the best scenes in this movie, which just sort of went to show you didn't need them at all. And I don't know why they included them because I did think like, why are you doing this weird? I mean, some people might like them. I thought they were really weird. There was a weird choice. The second problem I have is some characters that are introduced at the end of this film feel like they were from a completely different film, which I alluded to in the intro, right? They look like they could have been ripped from one of the more gaudy gangs out of The Warriors, but like the Britpop version. And the character that inspires their look is a real life person who is unequivocally fucking horrible. Like the person they modeled these characters after is a horrible, horrible person. And I don't know why they chose to go with that. It's a weird full stop on such a really great film. It'd be like if I delivered this really heartfelt, authentic TED Talk and then did the last like 2 minutes of that TED Talk in Pig Latin through interpretive dance. It's a fucking weird choice and a weird full stop to put on this film. But I guess if that works for you, this movie might be a 10 out of 10. That didn't work for me, which drags it down a little bit because the rest of the movie was a 10 out of 10. But that last bit dropped it massively because it left a bad taste in my mouth. And I mean, it does make me want to go see the second one because once again, this is a trilogy, but only to see if it was worth it. You know what I mean? Like if the second one doesn't address those characters and why they're like that, I'm going to be fucking pissed. You should watch this movie if you love fast-paced zombie action. The first half to two-thirds of this movie is that. If you're invested in the franchise lore, there are lots of cool little tweaks and facts and science that come out of this movie. They've built it up. If you like Annihilation, the movie Annihilation, and Wicker Man weirdness, this is sort of them mushed together a little bit. If you are an Anglophile and you specifically love the period in the medieval time where the English basically dominated everyone because of their invention of the longbow, there's a lot of reference to the longbow in this movie. They fucking love the longbow in this movie. The English love the longbow. I do not recommend watching this if you want a straightforward gore fest zombie film like World War Z or Zombieland. This isn't that. If you hate Rafiki from The Lion King, why would you? He's the fucking man. How dare you? But you're not going to like this. If you can't handle sequel bait, the second movie is apparently already filmed. It's in the post on its way to you. It will be here in, I think they said January. So the last bit of this movie is so sequel baity that it took me out of it. So just be aware of that. If you loved this and you're looking for more frantic and weird zombie movies, you need to see Mads. Mads came out last year. It's on Shudder. It's a French film that follows this rich trust fund kid called Romain. He's on his way home from his favorite coke dealer's house when he sees this mysterious injured woman on the road. He tries to do the right thing and give her a lift to the hospital, which sets off this insane chain reaction of events that leads to a night of ultra violence, fucking, and coke. This movie is shot in one take, and that is phenomenal because when you watch this movie, there are so many scenes that could go wrong. This movie doesn't just take place in one house one takes are always hard to do, but that would be an easy one-take movie. This goes across towns. There are people on motorbikes. There are people in cars. It's entirely shot in one take. It's a crazy feat. I have a full review for it, which I will link in the comments. But if you haven't seen Mads and you like zombie films, definitely get around it. My second recommendation is only if you like your zombie films completely fucked up and full of rage. Then I recommend the 2021 film, The Sadness. It's like the 28 franchise. It isn't technically a zombie film. It's about an angry virus. Same shit, right? It has all the trappings of a zombie film, though. It's about a young couple who fall madly in love during the first day of an outbreak. They are trying to reunite while the entire city collapses around them because this extremely contagious virus comes through and basically turns people into these hyper horny, hyper violent killing machines. Big trigger warning if you are going to watch this movie. Huge trigger warning. This movie has heaps of hyper violence and heaps of sexual violence, so know that going in. But if that doesn't turn you off, you will find one of the most horrific infection films I've ever seen. The Sadness is a fucking great movie, and it's really fucked up, and it's really gory. But it makes zombies scary, which is exactly what the 28 franchise does. Zombies are fucking terrifying in The Sadness, so highly recommend. This movie, it made me feel a lot of things, right? Fear, sadness, confusion, full body giggles. It's such a weird entry. If you'd have told me that this is the tone that they were going to go for, I would have thought you were pulling my leg. This is such a weird entry into this franchise, but most of it works. The last third doesn't for me, but most of it works. I am glad it exists. I don't think it's a 10 out of 10. I know a lot of people are saying this is the best movie to come out this year. It's not for me. But it is a really interesting film, and I'm glad it exists, and I will be seeing the second one. If you have seen this, let me know what you think in the comments, and hopefully I'll see you next week for another review. Peace.